Today I'm talking about Leslie Howard, the actor who died on the 1st of June 1943 at the age of 50. Leslie Howard was an English actor, writer, director and producer. He was born on the 3rd of April 1893 as Leslie Howard Steiner in Forest Hill, London. His Hungarian Jewish father was Ferdinand Steiner and his British mother was Lillian Steiner. Her maiden name was Bloomberg. She followed the Christian faith, but she was part Jewish. Leslie's younger sister was Irene Howard, who was a casting director, and his younger brother was actor Arthur Howard. Leslie was working as a bank clerk when the First World War began. He was 21 years old at the time and he voluntarily enlisted into the British Army. He fought in the Battle of the Somme in 1916, which resulted in him suffering from shell shock, and so he was medically discharged. He started acting in theatre productions and then ventured into the movies. He is known for the films Berkeley Square in 1933, The Scarlet Pimpernel and Of Human Bondage, which was both in 1934, The Petrified Forest in 1936 and Pygmalion in 1938. He was so successful that he gained 2 Oscar nominations for Best Actor for Berkeley Square and Pygmalion. Here he is in The Scarlet Pimpernel with Merrill Oberon. His most famous role was of Ashley Wilkes in the 1939 masterpiece Gone with the Wind. Here he is in the movie with Olivia de Havilland. Leslie boarded the BOAC Flight 777. BOAC stands for British Overseas Airways Corporation. On the 1st of June 1943. It was a KLM Royal Dutch Airlines flight. The plane was a Douglas DC-3 and it was named Ibis. The flight was from Portello Airport in Lisbon, Portugal, and the destination was Whitchurch Airport near Bristol in England. The plane departed at 7:35 a.m. It was a civilian aircraft that flew regularly between Portugal and England. Portugal was a neutral country in both world wars. Radio operator Cornelis van Brugge sent a message to Whitchurch Airport saying they were being followed and attacked at 10:54 a.m. This was the last message he made. The plane didn't reach its destination because it was shot down by 8 German Junkers Ju-88 bombers, and it crashed into the Bay of Biscay, killing everyone on board. The Bay of Biscay is in the Atlantic Ocean and is located on the western coast of France and to the Spanish border. There were 17 people on board, 13 passengers and 4 crew members. The crew members were Captain Quirinus Tapas OBE. He had been given an OBE award, which stands for Officer of the Order of the British Empire, for the listeners who aren't British. Second in command was Captain Dirk de Koning. Then there was Flight Engineer Engbertus Rosevink, and also there was Radio Officer or Wireless Operator Cornelis van Brugge. Cornelis had taken part in the 1934 air race from London to Melbourne, which was sponsored by Australian businessman Sir Macpherson Robinson, who was the founder of the Mick Robinson Confectionery Company. A gold trophy, gold medals and cash were the prizes for the participants. This isn't Cornelis in the photo. The strange and interesting thing is that this aeroplane had been attacked twice before. On the 15th of November 1942, it was attacked by a single fighter plane and was able to get to Lisbon and be repaired. Captain Dirk de Koning, who was on Leslie Howard's flight, had been aboard the plane during this first attack. The second attack happened on the 19th of April 1943, when it was attacked by 6 fighter planes. Captain Corner Dirk Parmentier was able to escape the enemy by dropping to 50 feet or 15 metres above the ocean and then flying sharply back up into the clouds. So who were the passengers aboard Ibis on that fateful day? There was Mrs. Rotha Hutchin and her 2 daughters, Petra, who was 11 years old, and Carolina, who was only 18 months old. They were flying to England to be reunited with Alan Hutchin, Rotha's Canadian husband and the children's father. According to an article in the Niagara Falls Gazette, she had been living in Canada for 2 years, and Alan was a lieutenant colonel of the British Army. Mrs. Cecilia Patton was the wife of James Patton and was travelling back to England to start a new job as a secretary at a consulate. Francis Cowrick was a 67-year-old engineer who worked for Babcock and Wilcox, who made boilers for merchant and combat ships. Here is an advertisement for Babcock and Wilcox. Gordon Thompson Maclean worked for the British Foreign Office as an inspector of British consulates. Kenneth Stonehouse was a British journalist and a Washington DC correspondent of Reuters news agency. He was travelling with his wife Evelyn Stonehouse. Tyrell Mildmay Shervington was the director of Shellmex and BP in Lisbon. Shellmex and BP was a merger of the petroleum companies Royal Dutch Shell, otherwise known as Shell, and the British Petroleum Company, known as BP. But he was also a secret agent named Agent H-100 of the Special Operations Executive. This was a British organisation that conducted reconnaissance, sabotage and spying, and aided resistance movements during the Second World War. So was he the intended target? Ivan James Sharp was a mining engineer and an official of the United Kingdom Commercial Corporation who had been negotiating a deal for tungsten imports for England to help with the war effort. Was he the target? Wilfred B. Israel, pictured here, was a British Jewish activist who was working to save Jews from the Holocaust. He played a large role in the Kinder transport. This was a rescue mission to get Jewish children out of Nazi-controlled areas that took place from 1938 to 1939. About 10,000 children were rescued and brought to the United Kingdom. Was he the target? Alfred Chenholz was an accountant and Leslie's travelling companion. Alfred resembled Winston Churchill. He had the same portly stature and smoked cigars. So was it a case of mistaken identity? Did the Germans think Churchill was on the plane? Winston Churchill wrote in his memoirs that he believed the plane was shot down because the Germans thought Alfred was him. Winston was travelling back to England from Gibraltar. He and his Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden had travelled to North Africa for a meeting with the future American President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who at the time was a United States general. Then there was Leslie Howard, the British movie star. He starred in World War II movies. He directed and produced Pimpernel Smith, which was an updated version of his film The Scarlet Pimpernel. Instead of the setting being revolutionary France, it was changed to pre-Second World War. The movie, the first of the few, was a biographical film about R.J. Mitchell, the designer of the Supermarine Spitfire fighter aircraft used by the Royal Air Force and other Allied countries before, during and after the Second World War. Leslie acted in this film and also directed it and produced it. Leslie also produced anti-Nazi propaganda as well. He had been in Portugal and Spain on a tour to promote his new film, The Lamp Still Burns, which he had produced. This film wasn't about the war, but was a medical drama. Some people think Leslie may have been a spy, but there's no definite proof that he was. In the book Neither Friend Nor Foe, The European Neutrals in World War II, author Gerald M. Packard says German propaganda minister Dr. Joseph Goebbels had seen Leslie's movie, Pimpernel Smith, and had decided to get Leslie because he didn't just star in it, but he also directed and produced it as well. The movie criticised the Nazi regime. There is a horrible rumour that the British government had knowledge that the plane was going to be shot down, as they had intercepted German messages by a code-breaking system called Ultra. If this is true, they didn't notify the crew because it would have compromised their position and let the Germans know they had such a system. Author Chris Goss, in his book Bloody Biscay, says the German pilots who shot the plane claimed years later that they had mistook the plane for an Allied military aircraft. The plane was painted in the Royal Air Force grey, green and brown camouflage, but it had markings indicating it was a civil aircraft, as well as red, white and blue stripes. A Spanish destroyer called Melilla searched for the aircraft on the 2nd of June, but they couldn't find any trace of the plane or passengers. Why did this happen the next day? Why wasn't someone searching for them on the actual day? Here is a document relating to it. The Ibis had the call sign of G-AGBB. There were some lucky people who escaped the disaster. British squadron leader Wally Lashbrook was told he couldn't travel on that flight because the plane was full. He actually died in 2017 at the age of 104. Instead of having a short life, he had an incredibly long life, all because of fate. Derek Partridge was the young son of a British diplomat, and his nanny Dora Rowe were taken off the flight so that Leslie and his friend Alfred Chenholz could have their seats. Derek was born on the 29th of June 1935, which made him 28 days short of his 8th birthday. At the time of making this video, he is still alive and is 89 years old. He became an actor, television presenter and voiceover artist. He had a leading role in the 1981 film Savage Harvest. In 2012, he appeared in a music video for the band The Madcaps. The video is for the song Baby Man. He is the host of a fictional series called Frame by Frame. There are photos of Wally and Derek on the internet, but I can't find any public domain ones to use. A priest, Father A.S. Holmes, also missed the flight. He was apparently told there was a telephone call for him, which resulted in him missing it. And the last lucky person was 7-year-old Anne Chichester Constable, who was the daughter of WRNS Chief Officer Gladys Octavia Snow, OBE. WRNS stands for Women's Royal Naval Service. Anne was deemed too tired to make the flight and said she wasn't on the ill-fated plane. Ivan Sharp's grandson, who lives in Norwich in England, paid for 2 memorial plaques to commemorate the crew and passengers of Flight 777. One plaque was placed at Lisbon Airport and the other at Whitchurch Airport. Here is a photo taken at Whitchurch to commemorate either the 500th flight or the 1000th flight on the Lisbon-Bristol route. 2 different sources say different numbers. On the 1st of June 2023, on the 80th anniversary of the plane crash, members of the North Bristol Amateur Radio Club and the South Bristol Amateur Radio Club read out the names of the passengers and crew and held a minute's silence for them. There is a monument in Cedera, Galicia, Spain, that bears the names of those who died. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!